Welcome, welcome. Good to see you, Holly, Renee. Welcome, Leonard. Welcome, Donna. Welcome, Julianne. And so my name's Carl Nieberding. I'm a season 9 graduate, and I'm interviewing Aaron Ryals, another season 9 graduate. And I'm getting to know him better today too. And we'll begin in a few minutes. So make yourself comfy. We've got 90 minutes together tonight. You know, it's almost like a feature-length film. So if you've got popcorn, soda, pizza, it's the time to get settled in. Welcome, George. And welcome to Jerry's AI note taker. I hope we have a very interesting interview and please our AI overlords tonight. So, Aaron, we don't have a clip to introduce you, but I did watch your Do It Live episode, and Do It Live is one of my favorite parts of participating in autonomy. Can you explain a little bit about Do It Live and what your experience was like doing that?
Yeah,
we're actually doing this live too, so you know, this
well, Do It Live is the autonomy podcast for students that are, ready to trigger their complexity and get out there and try something new. It's kind of a recap of the past week and the material we've covered, our experiences with it, our experiences within autonomy in a greater way. And the conversation starts off in the first week and kind of the podcast seemed to build with every new host that picks it up and takes it to their own place. And season 9, I thought we had some really good hosts before me. So, I wanted to try to make my time with the Do It Live a reflection of myself. And what's great about the format is it allowed me to do just that. And
right.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, I noticed we have a bit of a similar style. Like you could take the class material and just kind of riff on it and give your reflections and ask people for their insights. And my experience was it made me feel like I was hosting my own podcast, right? And there's a lot of things in autonomy like that, where you aren't just learning about these skills of modern success, digital tools, digital marketing, but you're actually getting to do it in a safe environment. And like you said, trigger your complexity. That's something we focus on, right?
Absolutely. One of the ways I like to describe it is that autonomy isn't just a course, but it's a safe harbor in which you can sail those skills around without running into a reef, without tipping your ship over. You can. It's invaluable, the experience of interacting with your classmates, doing the interviews, getting the feedback, and just all the other like-minded conversations that naturally develop out of it. It is, for me, it's so much more than just a introduction to a concept or a set of skills. Having that ability to practice it and come back for more season after season. It feels truly unique by comparison to any of the other sort of educational experiences I've had. I have a professional license, and so I have to do so many hours per year to keep my license current. And those are web-based classes as well, and they just feel so desolate. They feel so inert, whereas autonomy has a vibrancy and it's alive. And every season, because of new students coming in, for us experienced students, it gives it a new wave of vibrancy, something else to be inspired by. I don't know.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So I just wanted to welcome everyone else who's just joined. This is Autonomy Quest, where, so my name's Carl Nieberding. I'm an autonomy graduate. Tonight's guest is Aaron Ryals, also a season 9 graduate. And for the first 30 or so minutes, we'll just be getting to know Aaron and hearing about his journey, both before autonomy, during autonomy, and what he's up to today. So after 30 minutes or so, I'll open the floor up and all of you guys can ask, you can ask Aaron questions or any of us who are graduates, just more about the course, or, this is where you can get a personal perspective of people who've been through the course. We aren't trying to sell anything, we're trying to share our experience. So we're going for about 90 minutes today, and near the end we've got a bunch of free gifts, lots of great lectures and resources that Richard Grove, who leads autonomy, has provided. And yeah, so a few things you can expect to hear is just what it's like to go through autonomy, work with Richard, and you'll get more of a depth of understanding of the course, because I think autonomy is something that's hard to just read about or watch one video about and get. So that's our goal. So without further ado, Aaron, thanks for that little warm up. Because yeah, during autonomy, we both got to host the weekly podcast, and it's so cool just how being in autonomy, you get to practice the skill and not just learn about it. But before you had joined autonomy, where were you in your life? What's the overview? Like, what's your origin story, and how did you get here?
Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I've had different career pursuits that seem to switch every 7 to 10 years,
Hmm.
and in pretty dramatic ways. So I've gone from being a massage therapist to a bicycle mechanic to doing some teaching and tutoring. Um, uh, Currently, I'm a contractor. And since my time with autonomy, I am starting to open up some of my side hustles into uh, other avenues. And so um, I came to autonomy after following Richard for a number of years. Um, I touched base with him probably 2008-ish, 9-ish, somewhere in there, when he was doing a lot of work with John Taylor Gatto. Because for me, I love to learn, but I was so discouraged by how my high school experience went and then my college experience. And that's part of what led me to be a massage therapist over just completing a degree. It was getting my hands in it, so to speak, a lot sooner than just going through more school. Um, but I'd always been looking for kind of answers. Why did I love learning but was so turned off by school? And so the things that Richard and Gatto were saying made a lot of sense to me and resonated. Um, and after 2020 and the COVID and all of that, um, I felt that I needed to just invest more in myself. And so autonomy, it felt like the right time. And I enjoyed it so much that my wife joined and took season 10 right after me. And so for us together, it has in many ways helped us get on the same page even better for other pursuits. We homeschool our children, and you know that can be quite a bit of a challenge in many ways. And just having the experience and the perspective of going through autonomy together aligns us
Hmm.
that much stronger towards how do we want to interact with the homeschool co-op we're engaged with, and how do we want to help our children learn. Um, I was working on setting my business up to be something I didn't have to just physically do all this contract work. I do hardwood flooring, and it can be a lot of work. And so using um, marketing and presentation skills, I was able to have confidence to move into a better paying sector of hardwood flooring. I now focus on restoration of historical buildings and floors, and it's been a good move. That while a lot of my competitors this season have seen a downturn, I've been keeping up just fine, and so that's been really good. And you know, when I was going through some of autonomy, not everything in it applied directly to my business, but there's
Right.
crossovers, and if you in autonomy encourages you to find those crossovers. And so I was able to make things work in a very small scale, um, but much the same. So in other words, a lot of the same tricks and tips um, translated, even though I wasn't doing digital marketing as much.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask about that because obviously autonomy isn't a course specifically about hardwood flooring or specifically about massage therapy or contractors.
Mhm.
But it sounds like, especially as a jack of all trades and someone who's had been interested in education, and so many of us going through, the state sponsored education system, maybe you have a good experience, maybe you're in the middle, maybe you have a bad experience, and we often don't get a second chance to like fix
Mhm.
whatever way of learning we were impressed with
Yeah.
growing up. But now you're doing homeschooling, so I could see how not only just for yourself but for your kids, like John Taylor Gatto talks all about the flaws of the state indoctrination system, so to speak. How we're taught to follow rules, but not how to think or how to learn. And did you feel like autonomy gave you those general skill sets to a higher degree, or how would you describe that?
Um, yes, autonomy as a framework that for me is sort of like a fractal pattern.
Mm,
You can pull out or go in, and you're refining your context with the method in which Richard Grove presents the material, giving you a very convenient framework of kind of how to educate yourself and how to stay focused. And so yes, in the past year and a half since I started my autonomy journey, um, I have made huge gains, not only um, in business ways, but more importantly in the ways that I interact with myself and the way I interact with my wife and children. You know, Understanding the different components of a person, their relationship to the schooling they've had and the experiences they've had, um, you know, really can be liberating. And so, autonomy really helped me see where I was still in fixed mindsets, and in ways that I just hadn't noticed before.
could you
And
describe like what a fixed mindset is for someone who wasn't familiar with that term?
yeah, for me, the fixed mindsets were thoughts, core beliefs, things I told myself that just kept me from being able to be creative and find a solution or a way to continue forward. I've always been somewhat entrepreneurial. I've always pushed myself, but at times it was very difficult to get past aspects of maybe my inner doubt or having some negative self talk around certain things. Um, and I've learned by pushing myself, okay, you can get past this. But when you learn that you don't have to push past it, that you can actually um, nurture a growth mindset where, in a way, your identity becomes that of a person who says, how can I? It really is transformative. And, I've always been a very positive mental attitude type person. Um, I put it in mathematics terms, like I was doing the complex formula mathematics in the wrong order. And I just, autonomy put it back into the proper order of operations for me.
Yeah.
And those are the little things that were so valuable to me about my experience in autonomy, was having not just the access to great ideas for my business or for personal growth, but to have this order of operations. And the way the first couple weeks and the way it leads into week 5 is
Mhm.
a very, very inspirational and meaningful progression of concepts. Um,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because the course is it's designed with a certain structure and pace, and week one really just meets you where you're at. It's not like go go go, do this, do this, do this, but it's almost like unlearning those. I think you said something like unconscious core beliefs, especially we might have these limiting mindsets or negative beliefs like, oh, I can't start a business, I can't make more than X dollars, I can't learn how to do this. I didn't get the right qualification. And yeah, unpacking that stuff, like even before you get to learning the skills, like you're getting value out of that. Now, I'm also curious, would you say, because I mean, I think many of us have the same answer for this, but did you have a social group or community before autonomy that really supported you in this lifestyle or pursuing your dream type of change you wanted to work towards?
um, yes and no. My extended family, um, there is some really good support, and I'm thankful for that. But like a lot of folks, my social circle has suffered political genocide or something.
Yeah,
Just with the way things changed after COVID, I
the mind virus got them.
found my social circle changing in ways that um, it just made it difficult to find positive people in my locale that were willing to continue to better themselves. It seemed like many people were um, scared to come out of hiding, and I, I was just ready to. I, I wanted to grow. I wanted to be in a growth mindset. I've got young children, and I didn't want to miss a minute of being able to make sure that I was the best father for them and the best husband and role model so they could see um, values I wanted to embody for them. And um, my wife and I are very committed to personal growth, and autonomy has been one of those things that, like, so that we could um, put our energy where it really needs to go instead of always kind of rehashing what the definition of is. Um,
Yeah.
so um,
Oh, sure, sure. Now I guess I wanted to comment like, you know, it's so interesting, like just since COVID, it's like things that didn't used to be political are political now. So it's like, I wouldn't say autonomy has a specific political agenda, but it does attract people who are interested in individual freedom and improving themselves. And like, that's actually like not cool in every sector of society anymore. So it becomes like slightly tribal, but it's more of like the gym where anyone can show up and lift weights. It's like just because, yeah, we aren't handed anything, but we are given the opportunity to improve ourselves.
I really like the way you put that, Carl, because for me, I felt that I just have stayed kind of in the center and never really moved. but the cultural narrative has put me in a place that I didn't willingly choose to be labeled.
Mm,
And me is that wonderful mix of backgrounds and the right amount of integrity from every individual
exactly.
that really brings about positive experiences. I enjoyed every one of my engagements with my fellow students.
Yeah.
And,
Can you talk a
Richard
little bit
is,
about the mastermind, the exercises, the type of people you met? Because a lot of us
yeah,
coming into autonomy, we can't imagine what's inside that door. But what was that like for you?
yeah, for me, um, I'm a big fan of checklists and scripts, and autonomy comes with some good outlines and being able to practice the interview. It
Mm,
really clicked for me. It allowed me to train and focus how I discuss problem solving with people.
mm,
We start with asking each other, why are we in autonomy? But once you get very comfortable with going through the set of questions, you start to see how you can just change the topic to suit your business or even personal. I've been a better friend because I'm able to have a conversation and focus more sincerely on the need of a friend. Um, and so I really appreciated that. And then the mastermind group, which is where you'll be paired up with students from your season and from previous seasons.
it's like a
And
small group, like 5 or 6 people, right?
yeah, and the weekly, there's a one student gets the weekly focus, but we all get to check in with each other and kind of talk about our victories for the week, or if we're having a quick problem. And I just found that even if I thought I was bringing an insignificant thing to focus on, the feedback I got from autonomy was more than beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah.
Having that sincerity and authenticity and integrity within the interactions allows you to really be able to hold someone else's idea or comment um, and get to the juicy nugget of truth or something behind it. For me, I was going through a transition of integrating my father, who has an illness, and so he lives with us.
Mhm.
And it was, some of my issues were just kind of integrating into the family. And yeah, it was wonderful to get great suggestions and ideas from people to help with that. And not everything in autonomy has to be, no nonsense, brass tacks business stuff. The the way in which autonomy works is it's a problem solving technique in a bigger sense. And so you can use that technique for many other things than just how do I market restoring old floors.
Yeah, as you say that, like one definition of autonomy, it means many things to each person, but like when you say that, what comes to mind for me is self-reliance, like the Ralph Waldo Emerson essay, and America, and we had this tradition of self-reliance, like do it. It doesn't mean do it alone, but it's just like you can take care of yourself, and after you take care of yourself, you can be a benefit to your community. And I actually, I wouldn't have thought about this in advance, but you mentioned these mastermind groups and interviews, and it's like you can help other people with their problems, and that's as rewarding as helping yourself. And I found that built camaraderie in the community because you're all going through this same change together. And I
Mhm.
think you called it a safe harbor, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I do martial arts. I'm not sure if you do anything like that, but it's like when you start as a white belt, you feel like you're embarrassed just to show up, right? You need good partners and good teachers who will just let you kind of be awkward, until you
Mhm.
get to the next level and the next level and the next level. Before we get to Q&A, I just wanted to ask, since you graduated season 9 of Autonomy, and some you mentioned you might dip back in next season because we can always come back and learn more or meet more of the new students. But what have you been doing since, and how has your trajectory changed since when you started?
Yeah. Um, well, like I said, I've pivoted my business, and that's been great. It's allowed me to keep the same level of income while working less and focusing more on the type of work that um, I really appreciate, the sort of craftsman side. But even before this, I graduated, I was able to take my experience with the podcast and I booked a voice work gig for an advertisement. And that was
Oh,
great,
wow.
definitely unique experience. And so that, has been one of the side things I've been building out. Um, Also, I mentioned my wife had gone through autonomy.
That's right.
And, her and I have some plans for our homeschooling, and we've been working on those. But one of the other things it encouraged us to do was to take up dancing lessons, to
Mhm.
continue to invest in ourselves. And as ridiculous as it sounds, I don't think I would have been such an advocate for something like that. But that choice for us has deepened our relationship, encouraged us to continue to grow and set the example for our children. And like you were talking about with the awkwardness, just being awkward together, doing something and growing. And so yeah, my wife and I were discussing like it's been great to do this dancing thing, but we're ready to go back and do our autonomy this coming fall, to just hone in on some of this stuff and to see where the material takes us next. Because the material is definitely designed to revisit season after season. You couldn't possibly take it all in one season. And if you could, I mean, my hat's off to you. um, so
I,
that's
I'm definitely someone who tries to learn everything. And what I would suggest now, it's like definitely pick one goal for your season and make it something tangible. Maybe you want to update your website. Maybe you want to come up with a new freelancer offer, or just apply for a certain type of job and get those skills for that job. But it's like just learning all the facts, it's cool, but autonomy is really about getting stuff done. And
Mhm.
yeah, we use this phrase a lot called triggering complexity, which again, to use the gym metaphor, it's when you're not sure if you can do another rep and you just get it done. And it's like pushing the envelope. That's where your growth area is. And so we get used to this like awkward feeling of I don't know how to do that, but let's try. And yeah, I wanted to ask, can you speak at all about your wife's experience, or did you notice her change at all, like her personality or attitude, or what did she say she got out of it, in your view?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll speak for her exactly, but I noticed quite a bit of change for her. She had been a little nervous about being the main parent doing our homeschool teaching for our children
Mhm.
and interacting with the other moms in the group. Autonomy was able to give her some confidence and practice in adult conversations, and getting her feeling comfortable after kind of being a mom and just being with very young kids for so many years and kind of being out of professional life. So just that little bit alone was great to see her, um, but also on a personal level. We both of us together being able to share more of a common vernacular, that sort of come through learning a lot of different perspectives and autonomy. Um, it really helped us communicate better in some ways and helped us both um, take ourselves more seriously. If I don't know if I don't know quite how to explain it, but it just allowed us to be able to um, really cut through a little bit of the um, jargon in our relationship and share much more of a substantive relationship.
Wow.
Um, and we've only continued to work on it. And that's a lot of what autonomy is you get introduced to these ideas and then there's the place to work on it. So whether you're there working on it with other students, or if you're lucky like myself and your wife is interested in working on the stuff with you, in that martial arts metaphor, you spend the time in the dojo practicing, and you will get your new belt in no time. And so it's been wonderful. And yeah, I'm
That's great to hear. And yeah, one thing really stuck out. You mentioned, your wife was a stay-at-home mom who was homeschooling. Like she hangs out with little kids all day. And I've heard from so many people just being able to open up your computer and log in, and you just have like dozens of friends happy to see you. And it can really change the tone of your day and make you feel like you're getting out of the house, even if you can't get out of the house. So yeah, we've still got an hour left. And at this point, I just want to start to ask the audience. So one way after every lecture by Richard, and then again on Sunday, Richard hosts a Q&A, and he likes to just open the floor and see who's willing to trigger their complexity. And this is hard for a lot of students at first. Just turn on your camera and speak up and ask your question. So we'd like to start with that format for tonight. And you don't have to worry about talking over each other. Just say a quick hello, and whoever pops in first, you can ask Aaron a question, or if you have one for me or both of us, that's fine too. So who would like to be the brave, intrepid individual to break the silence and ask their question about autonomy?
I'll go. Hi, everyone. Happy
Julianne.
to be with all of you. My name is Julianne, and I'm seriously considering signing up for season 12. And I've had I can't remember what it's called, intake. I'm going to call it an intake call. I too am a licensed professional. And my question is this: it's even when the blueprint call, during the blueprint call, the gentleman with whom I was speaking even acknowledged. He said, I don't think you need too much of a blueprint because you seem to have a couple of things mapped out. I have a couple irons in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really struggling with discernment. There are a couple things I can do, a couple things I want to do, and things that haven't necessarily meshed. And I'm just wondering, what would you say to me about what autonomy could do for me, and to ask if either one of you, Aaron or Carl, had challenges with just discerning the next phase in your life, if you will.
Aaron, do you want to start with that?
Yeah. For me, I would say that the autonomy masterminds would be where perhaps a lot of the students that I observed in a similar place that you might be coming from, Julianne, they were able to talk with other students, and we're all in different places. So there's other professionals, there's people in between jobs, there's folks who are retired, there are young students who are just getting going in their lives, still in school or maybe just coming out. And that perspective of feedback might be able to help bring about something that could help you sift through the choices you're trying to make. Autonomy itself is a great framework for going through that, but um, it's just going to really introduce you to a great set of questions. The answer for you will come out of kind of doing the work. But if you're looking for, a little bit of kind of a brainstorm, then the mastermind was really where I got a lot of great, immediately applicable feedback from the autonomy program. Um, Carl, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks. that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, a couple things came to mind. This is my description, but I feel like the autonomy course I mentioned, it's got a sort of progression through the season. And I would call the three major phases, like I'd say it covers three major phases, and probably each person, it's like there's one in particular that's more pertinent, but they're all relevant. So, I mentioned the first, it's sort of like mindset, like developing a growth mindset. A lot of us have limiting beliefs, but, if maybe someone like you who's more established in their career, maybe you've got a pretty good mindset going on. The middle one I would call opportunity, and that's where you're thinking about new ways you can provide value in the market, whether that's at your current role, whether it's starting a side hustle, or whether it's starting something new entirely. There's a whole middle phase of the course focused around, like, once you've kind of dropped off your limiting beliefs and baggage, it's now like creating a new vision for yourself. And there's multiple lectures on that. The last one is more tactical, like the skills you need to get that done. And people learn different skills. Like some people focus on video editing or copywriting or sales. Sales is relevant to basically every business, right? And marketing. So that's more tactical. And the other big piece of value you're getting in the course is access to Richard Grove. And he just always has really keen insights on those detailed career questions like yours. He knows who to refer you to or what to think about to find that next step. Autonomy also has a few different tiers. Like there's the gold level, which includes the course and the community and everything you've heard about. The middle tier of platinum is for people who want, like, maybe you want to start a YouTube channel or create revenue streams by creating a course. Maybe you have an expertise. Like I was a user experience designer, so I had an expertise. So the middle levels helps you craft content, especially video courses, things like that. At the high level, you get to, there's the third upper level, you actually get to join a mastermind with Richard Grove, and he's going to personally mentor you throughout the season. And you're going to set goals and you're going to check back in with him. And, so autonomy is great because you can choose the level you participate. Nobody's going to check your homework. You can decide what your goal for that season is and just get it done. And I will say there are a lot of people who just come into autonomy a bit confused, right? But it's designed for that. So I hope that helps.
It was helpful. Carl and Aaron, both of you had helpful comments. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's great to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes. Great. Ron, thanks for speaking up. How are you?
Thanks. I'm looking at the VIP thing, and I'm looking at the accountability. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yep.
I've got products, things I'm developed, and I'm ready to launch some stuff, and I want to get ideas, bounced against other people, get perspective, suggestions, that kind of thing. Have either of you been involved with a VIP thing so I can understand maybe a little more of what that is about?
I think I can speak to that one. Aaron could chip in if you have any insights on that. Because I helped host Richard's mastermind last season, so I got to see what happens. And in season 9, I did do the upper level program. It worked slightly different, but it was still access to Richard. But in terms of the way it works now, you basically, instead of the mastermind led by a graduate, it's a mastermind led by Richard. And so if it works the same way this next season, it'd be every 2 weeks. You get something like 20 to 30 minutes during the session to just Richard deep dives on your problem. And what he's really good at, it's like he's good at pushing you out of your comfort zone. And like, that's what I need with accountability, because otherwise I'll just kind of set a goal I know I can hit. And especially with like a 2-week timeline, you can set somewhat ambitious goals in general. Yeah. So, I think the decision is, it's like, how fast are you ready to move, right? You can do the base level and maybe you just want to soak it in, and then next season you come back and do a little more. If you're ready for results sooner than later, like, I recommend the VIP or upper tier, because yeah, you still put in the work, but you've got someone, with skin in the game with you, like guiding you on the right path. That's going to save you time. And just like you said, it's going to keep you accountable, because in the middle of the season, like for me, it's like if I miss one week in my habit, I fall off the wagon, and then it's like I've got to start all over. So it's like, if you really want to stick with something, I can definitely recommend that. And it's still, you get out of it what you put in. If you show up each week and like didn't really get anything done, there's only so much you can do. But I find Richard an inspiring person in general. So, I try to treat his advice with respect.
Great. Okay. And as far as you talk about the various tiers and so forth. So the VIP tier will include the core stuff, if there's pieces of that we're interested in, as well as other masterminds, or is it just the mastermind with Richard, or how does that work?
Well, thanks. So I would have to check. I mean, our director is on the call, so she can
Yeah,
help.
you can do the regular mastermind with the
Yeah.
students. You can have your mastermind with
both.
Richard. You can do both. And you're also, as a VIP, you're also in the Pro Media course, where we do develop a lot of content. We develop a lot of, course material, but it could be used for anything. It doesn't have to be a course. It could be a book. It could be a product. But it's heavily into development and making sure that the idea can become profitable and marketable. So we do a lot with the concepts in the Pro Media as well. And Richard is also in those classes, in addition to leading the VIP Mastermind.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron. Nice to meet you. And
Yep, you too.
just personally speaking, like that's really cool, because I do like the weekly mastermind with the graduates as well. But then you still have the additional one with Richard. So
Yeah, and you can do it every season. It's not like you
Yeah,
have a
you can
one-time
just
shot
keep
at a
going.
mastermind, right? This is where you can come back. It's like you have an idea. Like Julianne, you can work through your idea and say, okay, well, I'm going to test this. I've got an incubator here. Autonomy is an incubator where you can run your event, you can test out your ideas and hone them and craft them and go, well, that worked, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, I've revamped it. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to do this. But it's like an idyllic testing ground for developing what you want to do or what you're doing now.
Okay.
So
And let's see. So which of the things that are included are lifetime? Which parts are seasonal?
So your course is your lifetime. The community, you will have lifetime access to the course, provided that you are always in integrity with the community guidelines. So you will always have your course no matter what, but we do have boundaries on our community, because that's what makes autonomy what it is, that we curate the community. And it's happened a few times, but it's very rare that people break those boundaries. So we're not beholden to work with people that are respecting the rules and autonomy.
At the higher
So
level tiers, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah, so that's basically it. So the community is I would say the course is the lifetime access. The community can be lifetime access, and it's not hard to be excellent here because
Yeah.
everybody else is.
Cool.
I think maybe he was also asking about Pro Media and the Richard Mastermind.
Oh yeah, so the Pro Media is 1 year, so you get to go through it twice. I actually am trying to figure out a way to make that more accessible. Maybe doing like a one-time payment and then run it as a small subscription so people can continue to use that, and then we can fund it. I actually want to break it off into other classes, and I'm having another expert run classes. I'm actually developing that another expert can run a separate class this year as well. So it would be 2 classes. So we're working on that now, and I want to see it, be multiple classes with a library. So Pro Media is developing. It kind of is in its infancy. And the mastermind is 1 season with Richard, but you could always buy into it again, a la carte. If you want to say, I want to do that accountability group again, then you can just take that accountability group again. And, it's there's a fee for that.
Okay. Thanks, Leah.
Cool.
Okay. And who has the next question tonight? We'd be happy to answer. Well, you're getting...
Aaron, hey,
Hey,
when you were enrolling into autonomy, you had expectations, right? You had an idea of what to expect. After enrolling and after like going through the course, what part of that experience was something that the marketing missed out on? A pleasant surprise, if you will.
yeah, I would say that for me, I like to have access to a lot of courses and classes. And one of the things that definitely was a wonderful treat was just finding how deep your autonomy experience goes with all the extra course materials outside of the autonomy course you get access to. I spend a lot of hours working, just listening to podcasts or courses. And it's been phenomenal to sort of work my way through different courses. Um, and so that was wonderful. It was a surprise. As you get to week 5 or 6, all of a sudden, much more of autonomy opens up. And even just getting the mastermind, coming in week 2, I think, is when those started. It was really nice. There was a certain amount of overwhelm that happens when you start getting into the material. It's very inspiring, and the course is designed not to just give you a tsunami of stuff. But when you get to the deep end of the pool, it's a great place to swim around. And yeah, I really liked that, having that extra material. Um, in another way, the way the material builds upon itself. For me, it's like having a built-in checklist in how you can approach and tie this material in together. And I wasn't quite expecting it to feel like that, but for me, it just clicked. And it really made embracing the material more significant.
And that lifetime enrollment too, it's like I always say it, it's like this, it's the thing that just eliminates all the anxiety, that
Mhm.
that gotta have it now type of attitude that maybe some people have a scarcity mindset, which we learn to overcome throughout the course of the autonomy course, the lecture series. And it's just an amazing thing to come out the other side of that, and you're like, oh, I get to do that all over again, and it's not exactly the same the next time. It's because the lectures are live, so you get this like personalized experience each time you go through the course. Like, yes, the core material covered is the same, but maybe Rich's, the Q&A sessions are never the same, right? And sometimes Rich, might have another approach to, like, oh, it's week 5, like it tends to just be a little interesting. It's just I don't know. It
Something
keeps you
about it being
wanting for
live,
more.
and everyone else is watching. Like, it makes you want to show up,
Yeah,
instead of, oh, I could just watch the replay next week.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Also,
then
spotting the new video that got inserted into the intermission for this season. Yeah, this is a little different video,
yeah.
because very much, if what's the quote? It's not what you say. It's not all of what you say. It's how you say it. And so, yeah, Richard is always refining how autonomy is presented. Um, so it's not just the same idea expressed the same way. Every time I've gone back through a course from a following season, that theme, that idea is developed on. And so, yeah, I've sat through 3 of the introductory, first week seminars, and they're not the same. That it is refined. It is, and I really have to take my hat off to Richard. He could just sit back and, okay, that's a take it, print it, done. But
Right.
no, he comes back season after season to make it bespoke, and it's I just have a lot of respect for approaching education this way. As someone who's just starting a journey of educating his children, there's something about just not doing a cookie cutter that makes it very worthwhile.
It leaves room for the random, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I got my little ones too. We homeschool here as well, so I relate to you on that a lot. One of my favorite things is like all of the stuff that you can do that while the live autonomy lectures aren't taking place on Friday nights. Of course, you got the replays of those, but like in the University of Reason library, you got like so much more material to go over. Like Michael Badnarik's course there, like Tony Myers, he's got the logic course, on the trivium, and there's just so much. It's, I mean, I'm not trying to like overwhelm anybody with this message, but like there's just plenty to do. And it's like it's like a fruitcake at Christmas, the gift that just keeps on giving, that old that old joke. But I always enjoyed that myself. Is there a like an extracurricular course in that University of Reason library that you gravitated toward after you were let loose in there?
The logic course, and was it Derek who does the trivium? Some of the supplemental trivium stuff. I remember chatting with him in one of my Q&A groups, and just the small little things. So for me, yeah, the courses, being able to interact with some of those people who built those courses as they're participating in autonomy, it, it's very excellent. Sometimes, yeah, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought, but
All right.
it's something that, kind of talking about it now and doing this leading up to the next season, it gets me excited to think about, what engagement I'm going to have. And, the extra courses that are being brought out by autonomy, we can get front row seat at the test run. And that's been excellent as well. I've participated in a couple of those, and they've been wonderful to have. The one that I'm reminded of is the goal setting workshop. I really appreciate that as a way of, if folks here are a little bit on the fence about autonomy and what the experience might bring, that goal setting workshop for me really gave me the experience I needed of what the class would be like, what the Q&A felt like, what the interaction with the students was like. And that was something that I greatly appreciated.
Oh, for sure. Oh, and just to like ease everybody's mind, you get that extra, like the University of Reason library after you're done and graduated from your season of autonomy. That way, when you come in the door, you are able to just like focus in on what brought you there in the first place without that overwhelm of everything else that you could go and start clicking on and getting involved with and everything like that. There's plenty of stuff to do in the community as the season is going on. But as far as like Tony Myers, like, his logic course, his trivium course, and, other things. Yeah, that's for later, but it's something that really, really gets you to preoccupy your time throughout the off seasons or, after you graduate.
Yeah, there's plenty enough going into each week's worth of class material. You start waiting for Thursday's drop of questions to get you primed and ready for Friday's lectures. And that becomes, a welcome part of your weekly routine. And, for my wife and I, it was something that we definitely were just like, all right, did you get your questionnaire filled out? Oh, I got mine filled out. All right, Friday can't come any sooner. And, we kind of get the kids with their dinner and pop it on and kind of listen to it and have the Friday night lecture going while we get the kids ready for bed. And then if we miss something, we can go back to it Saturday morning and listen in on the stuff we weren't able to pay attention to because we were reading, Hop on Pop or something like that. And the flexibility of the course for me as a parent, and I'm sure as well, James, that being able to not have that fear of wasting an investment in yourself and being able to get access to that course just within hours of it being done for the week really made me feel like I could do this. I could start integrating this into my life, and changing myself from someone who would have this limiting belief of, oh, I can't, to being like, wait a minute, how can I? How can I make this work? And it's my wife and I kind of talk about um, the journey is building a brick house, but it just feels monotonous because kind of laying brick after brick can sort of become, you just, all you see is brick in front of you. But when you start to step back and you see what you've created with these small incremental changes, it really amounts to something that's immense and beautiful in the end. And we are just both excited to see where it continues to take us. Because for me, it was something that, oh, okay, well, maybe this will kind of help me market my business or help me, pivot into a side job. But it's been much more than that for me. And for folks out there that feel like they missed something in their educational experience or in their professional life, something that helps tie it together in a more cohesive manner, I would encourage them to take a hard look at what autonomy can bring. Because for me, it's hard to define, but that's what it really brought together for me was an overall mindset and framework by which I can approach problem solving anything.
Yeah, it's like it gives you your power back, right? You might have felt like I'm just on this course and I'll make the best of it. And then it's like this inflection point once you realize you don't necessarily have to do what you've been doing. You can learn new things, you can adopt new mindsets. You start to change your vision. It's like, oh, if I just went a little this direction, then in 5-10 years, I could be a completely different place. I could have the life I want to build instead of the life I'm kind of stuck in or forced on. And
Absolutely. And in that way, going back to the way it's kind of like a fractal pattern, that you can use that, oh, here's where I want to go in 5 years, and then shrink the pattern down to the next step and the next step and the next step. And for me, that sort of cohesiveness in the way the courses are designed and the way the course is embraced by the students and how we interact with each other and the culture of excellence that comes out of that. It encourages you to not only participate in autonomy, but then take that out and be that in your family, in your friendships. And yeah, if anyone wants to about my experience, they can check out the Autonomy YouTube channel for the Do It Live I did. I felt that gave a pretty good snapshot of where we were at in season 9. And
I've got that link, so I'm going to post it in the chat. Actually, I'm not sure how to post it in the chat. I'll send it to James. But yeah, I've got a few comments, but I did want to mention we're still in the audience Q&A. If any of you wonderful listeners have a question for either any of us graduates, feel free to just unmute and say hi and speak up, because that's how we do it in Autonomy. And feel free to interrupt me if I happen to be talking, because Zoom's just a little awkward like that, and we all get used to it eventually. And
Carl, I have a question. It's
yeah.
Julianne again. Could you please explain a little bit more about Mastermind? Are those courses for graduates? And so would I, for instance, if I joined season 12, would I participate in a mastermind after I graduated? And how many of them? They seem to me, as I understand, almost like special interest groups, if you will.
I see. Yes, I'd be happy to explain that. So around the third week of the course, everybody has the opportunity to join what's called a mastermind. And that's basically like a small accountability group of other current students in the season. And it's led by a graduate. So each graduate will host a meeting each week, and you'll be in a group of 4 to 6 other students. And the idea is you set your goal for the week, and you check in the next week and kind of report your wins and your challenges. And each week, the format rotates between one person doing a deep dive to share where they're at in their life and what they're working on, and really take about half an hour to just kind of unpack and present what you're working on in Autonomy, and then get everyone's feedback. And so it kind of works as an accountability group, as an ideation session, and like a small, like tight-knit group, instead of just having one mass of students in the course. But it is for new students as well.
That sounds great. And how many students in a season?
It definitely varies. I would say it's a few dozen. If I don't have all the numbers, but I would guess between 50 and 100. Right? It kind of, we're kind of ramping some things up again. I think the goal is somewhere around 100, and there's at least 500 graduates who are part of the community who also will chime in from time to time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
There's
the cutoff
almost-
is 100, because that way there's never so many that it's impossible for Rich to
Right.
be there for
5.
everyone
Yeah.
accordingly. So I've heard 100 is like the cap
There's almost 800 people now.
Yeah.
in the whole of the
We've got an
community.
army.
Yeah, 1776 was the last, but I think it was not including people like the 30 or 40 that have already joined for this season. So
That's a great number.
yeah, it is a great number.
Oh man, about the masterminds, like it was always just so refreshing to know that there was like this small tight-knit group that we were all like we've all like got each other's backs throughout the week, and like being in the hot seat, which is like when it's your turn to like, here's my pain point, here's what I need to work on, any suggestions, what do I, how do I tackle this obstacle, how do I overcome this? And then just such support for for that kind of man, and it's just so refreshing when, hey, I'm having this problem with like my website, anybody got tech experience? I'm looking to one of my hot seats was like, I'm looking to shed some of this extra weight that I've put on over the last couple of years. Like, any suggestions? Like, oh, and then it's like, oh, hey, what's your diet like? What's your exercise like? Hey, I've found these. Like, what, like, it's just such a support system that is just, I don't know. It's so beneficial. And yeah.
I was
Thanks, James.
I was just thinking as you said that, like I've bought so many courses over the years, and they often just, I swipe my credit card and they just dump a bunch of videos, and then I never hear from them again. And it's like things like this, the Q&As and the mastermind, it's like it becomes like a virtual classroom. Like you have something to show up for, and your classmates are there, and it's I'm a designer, and I'd call it a well-designed course because it's actually engaging. Like it doesn't just give you a 5,000 page book to read. You know, it's
Right.
like you show up and you've got that support.
Oh yeah, and about the masterminds, just another thing too is like, it, typical for a mastermind is like you have your own, you have your own. The group has their own personalized like chat rooms. So when you want to like talk to the group, like you already have that space available for like, oh, here's the message and everything, and like everyone's really really cool, you know.
There's
And
a
they're and
mastermind from season 8. Sorry, they're still meeting. They kept
yeah,
their group together.
yep. Yep. And some people, and at the like at the very first meeting, it's usually like usually responsibility of the group leader to kind of just like feel out the room, get a gauge for everybody, where everybody's at. Like you just kind of have like a rapport session, and then you guys decide whether or not you want the meetings recorded. Some people, when I was in mine, I'm a season 10 graduate, by the way. During season 10, our mastermind, the one I was in, with actually one of my mastermind, one of my people is actually in here, Holly, and we were like okay with it being recorded, and then there was another group that was like, nah, they didn't want it recorded. So like it can be completely like you know, burn after meeting type of thing, you know.
I like the not recorded because then people actually have to show up and said, I'll catch the, you guys meet and I'll catch the replay. It's like, no, show up. You're part of this group.
Yeah, you be here, be square.
But then it can be cool. Like if you're doing your hot seat, you know, I think you could ask, like, if it's your week, hey, can I record this week so I can like review all this later? Because I don't have time to take notes.
I also observed, I observed with the masterminds that for folks who are a bit timid with setting up their interviews and practicing some of those, that having the mastermind group allowed them to break the ice in a little bit softer way than just, hey, Richard, talk to me.
In front of the
So
whole class.
yeah, you know, the Q&A session definitely helps that, but it's not the same group of people every week. Whereas your mastermind, you start, you know, you get very familiar with that group of people, and you can ask them to do the interview exercises. And so for those, and there were a couple people in my group who were definitely a little timid. It allowed them to be able to get into doing those, and you know, within 2-3 weeks, they had no problem just doing them, kind of the way everybody else seemed to be, just effortlessly. Hey, let's set something up. So you know, not everybody was maybe like you or I, Carl, where it's like, yeah, let's do this podcast thing. Let's jump out there and start talking. Other folks are a bit more like, well, maybe I don't have anything really to contribute, or oh, my thought, you know, my problem isn't anything like their problem. But you whittle it down to a mastermind, and having that ability to focus attention on yourself, in a way, it was kind of like a professional struggle therapy session. It was great. You forge those relationships, and yeah, whether they continue after or not, it definitely helps during the season to give you more support. And you know, if you miss one of your masterminds, you're going to get a message on Circle being, "Hey, where were you? We missed you." You know, and it's just nothing bad, but just it's nice to know that the people you're interacting with notice when you're not around, and keep you engaged. And that's one of the most valuable aspects for autonomy for me, was having that community. Um, it's pretty special.
It's so great to see just the transformation of people during the mastermind. Like your first week, it's just like, you know, who are these people in little windows on my computer? And it's like, I'm such and such, and I'm from here. And by the third week, you know everybody's name, you know where they're from, you know their hobby, you know the name of their pet. And by the end of the course, it's like you'll see people who started out just, you know, maybe they had a confidence issue, or they didn't believe they can do something, and you've seen them like break through those barriers. And it's just very cool to like do that as a small group. Sorry, I was just checking the chat.
Oops.
That's for later.
Yeah, I accidentally hit enter.
Okay.
No big deal.
No worries. It's actually my first time at hosting Autonomy Quest, so this is me doing it live too.
Well, geez, Carl, we couldn't tell. You've been
Yeah.
killing it tonight, dude. Absolutely crushing it.
It's dead. Am I supposed to kill it, or is that good or bad? But yeah.
Hey, I seeing how I'm feeling talkative tonight. I actually have another question for Aaron. And I apologize if you already feel like you answered this one, if it fell through the cracks on my end. But what did the integration exercises do for your like communication skills?
Being a professional, I would go out and chat with my clients or prospective clients. And I had all sorts of little tips and tricks like, oh, you're repeating yourself, better stop talking now. So for me, I tend sometimes to be a bit of an over talker, overseller. And what the integration exercises allowed me to do was really dial it down a notch in terms of uh, talking, but increase the effectiveness of my communication. So it allowed me to hone in on a framework of assessing my client's needs. Because at the end of the day, the interview intake exercise allows you to really problem solve. And using that as the underpinning aspect of sales really helped me step forward with much more confidence that I could talk with a client and I could say, well, this is how much it's going to cost for what you're looking for. And considering all the things you want out of this, this isn't necessarily going to be what you are wanting. Or help them feel that, yes, this is going to be well worth it for you, though it will be a long process and perhaps a bit expensive. Um, Being able to have that confidence and focus really changed my professional interactions. Not only that, but a lot of the interactions I have with my peers, I'll often subcontract for general contractors. And contractors are getting better, but there's still a lot of salty crows out there, and you got to deal with them. And it allowed me to, um, in that martial arts sense, sort of take their energy that I don't really care for and just kind of give them back a little more positive and a little more productive energy, without them losing face. I present nice here, but you catch me at a job site, my language might be a little more foul, and I might have a little less inclination to over talk. I'm trying to get a job done here. So it allowed me to be able to, um, like I said, focus in on what the conversation needed to be about to move us to the next place, whether it's uh, working with a client or working with another contractor. I was less likely to have an emotional hiccup. I was just better trained at, instead of giving an or an to naturally go into a good follow-up question. To yet again bring about what? Getting this problem, whatever it may be, clarified or the next actionable step. And that for me was really, really useful.
Yeah, I wanted to add, for those who aren't familiar with the term integration exercise, that's what we call like the application portion of autonomy, where Richard will give a lecture that includes people skills or interviewing or sales calls, or if you're on the phone how do you get past the gatekeeper? How do you get the secretary to, book a meeting with their boss? All these like role play scenarios. And if you imagine like taking a course on just people skills or sales skills and just watching the video, but not getting to practice, you might never start because nobody wants to pick up the phone for a real sales call and having never done it before. So what we call integration exercises is we go in like this dojo meeting room and we'll do the exercise with one another. One person's like the client, or one person's being interviewed and one person's the interviewer. And so we'll do the exercise and then get feedback. And if there's an audience, people can chip in like what went well, or what could you improve, and then you'll swap roles and do it again. So that's just another component of autonomy.
Oh, and for me, out of the gate, I felt pretty confident, but I definitely went through weeks where, oof, I needed that practice because things kind of would fall apart for me. And that practice component, I couldn't emphasize it enough. It really is a huge difference. And then yet again, coming back season after season, because you may get a certain component down with the material, but being able to come back and practice from another angle really was, for me, it's Richard's commitment to us as students is continuing this for us graduates. So it's not just this season that someone who's interested is getting into it. It's changing kind of the identity of who you are. It is helping you go and be autonomous, and the support to practice that, because it's self-reliance. If you don't practice it for yourself, it isn't going to work for you. And having the ability to come back season after season really means that you can commit to the growth. You can commit to these skills in a way that, man, if school had been like this when I was in middle school and high school, I would have approached my adult life vastly different. And there are moments, I think, for a lot of older students as they go through the material where you have that reflection point and you're like, it's some simple stuff, but it's the culmination of how it's presented and what's offered and how it's reinforced that really makes the difference.
Yeah, like learn by doing. And what was I thinking? Oh yeah, so what I was remembering, it's like I know people who, because last season I was originally season 9, I graduated, and last season I came back as a graduate guide, so like I hosted a mastermind and helped run some of the events. And so I met students last season who, like, one of the most valuable things they got was just doing as many integration exercises as possible. And I know at least 2 people who did at least like 50, like they interviewed every single student in the course. And, with the lifetime membership, you can always come back and do more interviews and meet more students and like sharpen your skills. And it's like people will often say it's like all the people they met that way was as valuable as just the lecture content. So it's like you can really get a lot out of those.
Hey, one more question. So having learned the art of ethical sales through autonomy, have you been able to like use that training to prevent yourself from getting duped by somebody who is trying to sell you something unethically? Have you avoided any pain or suffering because of your now the defense mechanism against, unethical sales?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. The ethical sales, I think it's something a lot of people want to do, but there's, we get the pejorative of sales. Sales feels like a negative because when it's done wrong, it leaves us with that bad taste. So yeah, absolutely. Once you know how it's done right, you see when it's not being done right. And also for me, it allowed me to talk with a person in my life who does sales and does it right in their own manner, and say, hey, I've given your vocation a bit of a bad go in the past, and I was able to really reconnect with them in their profession, and it was wonderful. And they weren't expecting it. They were just like, you're another person who's going to call me a used car salesman. Thanks. But, I was able to find and really see the appreciation of sales after years of, that's one of those limiting beliefs. That's one of those fixed mindsets, is that sales is bad, sales is wrong, and there's no good way to do it. No, no, no. There's definitely a good way to do it, or at least an ethical way to do it. And when you're equipped with that skill set, you don't feel uh, in any way wrong for talking with people. And when you do decide to make that offer, you feel confident. Or when you decide to say, hey, I don't think this is right, and you're not going to make the offer. Yet again, it's that confidence. And yeah, when you can tell someone no thanks and have the confidence that I don't need what they're selling because they ain't doing it right, it feels great to just look them in the eye and say no thanks.
Yeah, for me, it really helped me. Like I don't know, maybe the term would be like a sales skeptic, like, because Richard pointed this out when I talked to him early on. Like I was saying, like, yeah, I just get all this spam in my email, and all these websites just try to get me to click, and then they upsell. And it's like I feel like I hadn't seen sales done right. Like Richard taught me, like, well, it's like that same framework is there. You're just connecting the person's need with something you have that's valuable. But to do that, you have to find out what they need and what's valuable to them. It's not about showing up with your wares and pushing it in people's face and then trying to trick them or deceive them. It's just about getting to know them and then seeing how you can help. Uh, so that yeah, I think so. Maybe I'm the opposite story. It just built for me a respect. It's like, oh, this can be done right. And then as I'm building my business, I now have the confidence to, I never liked marketing or sales because I was a designer, a computer scientist. Like I'm a creative, like I just make good stuff. Good stuff should sell itself. But the reality, like bad sales sort of wins because they're getting attention. And if good salespeople don't know how to go out there and get attention and then make those connections with clients in an ethical way, like those other people are going to win. So like we need to learn those skills too.
Right, because if you have a service or a product that you want to bring to the market, and you're in the camp that desires to keep the market in the realm of freedom, then it can't be kept in the realm of freedom if we're doing it deceptively and unethically. And like part of that process also means that you're going to have to learn how to say no to the people that are trying to trick you. And that's something I took away from the course myself, actually. That's why I love asking that question, because it's like a light bulb went off one day. I'm like, this doesn't just teach you how to sell stuff like ethically. It also teaches you how to recognize when somebody's trying to screw you.
Oh yeah.
And it just like, I was like, wow, this is like a hidden benefit of the course I really don't hear a lot of people talking about.
That's what Richard calls it.
Yeah, intellectual self-defense, exactly.
I find that there's this correlation between ethical sales, solving people's problems, adding value to their lives, and figuring out what you want to do with your life, and figuring out what your offer to the world is, because those things are integrally tied together. And you want to, we're always looking for that gap in the market. Like, what do people need? There's what I want to do, and there's what people need. Right. So can I combine what I want to do with adding value to the people's lives with what they need? And is my dharma wrapped up in that? And I think that gets hashed out by learning ethical sales, as adding value to people's lives.
Brilliantly put, Leah. I agree. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
If you guys have any last questions, definitely jump in. I just want to tell you a bit about how the enrollment process works, and then we'll share those links and free gifts to some of Richard's programs for you guys to check out. Yeah, so I think by being here, you've joined Autonomy Quest and you have access to the other replays if you want to watch different graduates. The next step, once you're intrigued and want to get to know if this is a right fit for you personally, would be booking a Blueprint for Success strategy call with a graduate. So that would be me or one of our other graduates on the Autonomy Experience team. And we'll take up to an hour to get to know you personally, like hear a bit about your story and where you want to go, answer your questions about the course, and make a recommendation if we think the course is the right fit for you, or otherwise, how we think we could help. So let's say at the end of that call, if you are a good fit and you receive an invitation, you'll get an offer to join Autonomy. And season 12 is starting, I believe, around the end of the month. And there is a concert coming up even before that. And so we want to have a really big kickoff for this next season. Just do it up in style. So we'll be posting those links in the chat. Or
you want me to drop them right now, Carl? We're getting toward the end, bud. I'll just do it now.
Yeah.
No big deal.
So, okay, so the Blueprint call, yeah, that's a link. Okay. And then I want to, there's actually another really exciting Autonomy event tomorrow at 12 Eastern. So that's Saturday, September 7th. And that's called the Autonomy VIP, or Very Independent Producer Summit. And it's the 4th one. And Richard will be hosting it. I believe, I don't think it even says that on the page, but we all know what it is. But basically, Richard interviews a lot of people in the freedom community. I think some, like, I believe Mark Passio had gone through this program, but it's all about saying no to the NWO. So a lot of Richard's work, like if you watch his Grand Theft World podcast, is just about exposing the agendas, covering the other side of the news and how all these causes, all these effects we see in the modern day, covering the causes. And so the summit tomorrow will be talking about autonomy, and then we'll just be talking about these other people in the freedom movement and what autonomy means to them, what they're doing with their freedom. And personally, I see freedom as sort of a middle point. It's like you're shifting out of reactivity, and now that you have your freedom, you have to decide what to do with it. So I think there's going to be a lot of really great interviews and conversations about how we can use our freedom to maintain it and to act ethically.
Yep.
So I can read off some of the guests. It's going to be John Bush, Mark Passio, Sean Stone, James Corbett, Charlie Robinson, Scott Armstrong, Justin Arman, Jay Dyer, Matthew Raymer, Peter Duke, and Pete Quinones, and Icaros. And I believe that runs for a few hours. So that's at 12 Eastern or 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. And yeah, so definitely tune in for that, especially if you want to get to know Richard better and if you're interested in the freedom movement. I wouldn't miss it. That's personally where I got introduced a few years ago to autonomy.
Well, may I just add also that on September 20th is the first
That's
event.
when the concert is, right?
Yeah, for season 12, it's the Autonomy Welcome Celebration, and it's got Jordan Page and Grant Presence playing. So it's going to be a really fun kickoff of the season. And guess what? The following Friday, we're going to do all the Mastermind leaders. So everybody can come in and meet, the guides that are going to be hosting the Masterminds. And that'll be really good. But I'm sorry, one more thing. There's also going to be the Ask Me Anything with Richard. And that's Sunday the 15th. So not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. All right. And so if everybody here, you're probably on our email list, that'll go out. We'll send that out by Monday. You'll see the links for the Ask Me Anything. So definitely join that. And if you want to talk to Richard, then that's a good place.
Yeah, so it's like an open, like a public ask me anything, because Richard will run the AMA during the course, but this is like the pre-course, everyone can come, right? All right, and yeah, thanks to James who posted our free gifts in the chat. So Richard has a series of lectures called Mindset, and I believe if you click on any of those at the top of the page, you can navigate between them, and there's a password for one of them. And that's where you can get a free introduction just to Richard's style and his really no nonsense approach to personal empowerment, basically the foundation of autonomy. And you can also learn more about the 19 essential skills for success. And that's the core of the autonomy curriculum. So we've got a link there about that. And yeah, I've covered the VIP summit. And just to reiterate, if you are interested in learning more about autonomy, just click the link to book your blueprint call and you can meet one of us one-on-one, and we'll get to know you and make some recommendations. I'd like to thank you all for coming to Autonomy Quest. Thanks especially to our guest tonight, Aaron Ryals, fellow season 9 graduate. And I just want to say it's a privilege to be a part of this movement. And even after you graduate, you can come back and contribute. And it's just, yeah, just a wonderful community. And thank you. Should we end now, James, or any last questions?
We're gonna hold the meeting open for just another minute. In the meantime, Aaron, hey man, is there any final thoughts that you would like to share with our guests, our people tonight?
Yeah, if you're looking for something that's hard to define to help you get past whatever's kind of the roadblock for you, I would heavily consider autonomy. Chances are within the course material, there is that nugget of gold for you that will help get you rolling again. It was definitely in there for me more than once. So
yeah, I resonated with that too, because you said you were a jack of all trades, and it's like autonomy it teaches some tactical stuff about sales and marketing for sure, but it also teaches you like these core life skills that a lot of us just didn't get in our first pass through the education system. And so why not get them now? Because they make such a big difference. Like interviews, conversations, persuasion, showing up on camera, organizing projects, meeting in groups. So much great stuff here. But again, it was great to know you better on this call, Aaron. And thanks again for everyone showing up. So thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Carl, James.
Yeah, great to meet you, Julian.
Yeah, likewise.
everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
You guys out there, have a great evening. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks for the help.
Yeah,
everybody.
thanks. Take care. See you.